I want to start by asking you a question. How many of you today thought while taking a shower that this could be your only one this week? Raise your hand. No, and I see no hands. Well, maybe there is hands online. Sorry? How many of you today thought while taking a shower that this could be your only one this week? Yeah, okay, so no hands. Well, I guess you know that I will be talking about water scarcity in Iraq that is induced by climate change. I grew up in a small town called Zubair to the west of Basra, and Basra is all the way to the south of Iraq. Zubair is very rich in oil, but very poor in water, despite being only 22 kilometers from Basra center, where Shatt al-Arab flows across the city. And Shatt al-Arab is formed when Tigris and Euphrates meet at the north of the city, and it flows to the Persian Gulf. Water has been always an issue in this town, but people have developed their ways to adapt. My mother, for example, has crafted the art of recycling and saving water. And I call it art because I believe it requires some level of creativity to be able to accommodate the limited amount of water that you receive every week to the needs of a family with 4 children. We were actually the last house in our street to run out of water, and sometimes our neighbors come and borrow it from us. And when there's not enough water, my mother takes us with the laundry and whatever she needs to wash to my grandmother's house. Their neighborhood was better in water supply. But this did not last for so long. Soon the whole town was struck by the lack of water. And my parents were tired and stressed of trying to find ways to bring and provide water to the household. For example, they were staying late at night waiting for the water to be pumped so they can fill in every jar they have. At that time, we never thought of the issue as a climate-related problem. We thought it's a poor water management problem and outdated infrastructure that was either bombed during the war or not maintained because of the economic sanctions. With the help of my uncle, we moved out of Zubair to Basra city center, and we actually lived close to Shatt al-Arab. There was a lot of water, and every time we opened the tap, the water was running without the help of the motor pump. We had a green garden, and of course, my mother was the happiest. But this also did not last for so long. This time, it was the quality of water. Our water had color. It smells sometimes, but the most difficult or big issue was salinization. And this happens when the water levels in Shatt al-Arab gets low and low with the time. Then the water from the Persian Gulf takes over. And then it becomes salty and polluted. So it becomes salty and polluted, of course. And then the most affected people were, of course, the farmers. With the time, we saw more fruits and vegetables imported from outside the country, and the farmlands were replaced by concrete building. They were selling the lands because they couldn't plant it anymore. So you see that most of the biggest problem that climate change has is on water resources in Iraq, which is the 5th most affected country by climate change worldwide. And communities, of course, have developed their ways, like they depend on groundwater, for example. They planted the crops that water resistant or drought resistant, but they can only do little to survive, not to thrive. The problem gets bigger and bigger, and local politicians were not responding. And I think here comes the importance of raising awareness. And this is what I wanted to participate in. With Celsius degrees in summer, climate change was not affecting our daily life, it was also affecting our security. Because the water level was getting lower and lower, pollutants were concentrated, especially chemical and bacterial. And then people started to get sick, of course, and more cases were reported, and this happened especially in 2017 and 18, when the heat waves were extreme and water levels were at the lowest. People, of course, start to talk about it in social media, and soon this discussion turned into a grassroots campaign to demand clean water. The peaceful sit-ins turned into violent clashes between the security forces, local security forces, and the protesters. It went out of the control of the local government, so the central government sent the troops to control the situation and also shut down the internet so people stopped mobilizing each other. But this was not enough, like the tactic by the government. Soon other provinces joined these protests, including the capital. This protest that happened in 2018 gave the spark to a bigger movement happening in Iraq called Tishrin protest, which happened in 2019 and also early 2020. This one was so big, it actually toppled down the government. And only 2 weeks ago, early election took place in Iraq, and everyone is waiting what will happen after. I want to say that when local communities exhausted their solution, when their voice were ignored for so many years, they resorted to extreme measures. And if we want to help out, if we want to prevent such instability and insecurity in a country that has just started recovering from long years of wars and internal conflict, we need to help and support these small communities. At my work as a junior researcher at the Planetary Security Initiative on climate-related security risks, I try to raise awareness that instability in Iraq doesn't come only from terrorism, from ISIS. It can only be instigated by climate change. And if we want to keep things stable over there, if we want to yes, it's working now. If we want to keep things stable over there, if we want to prevent such conflict and bloodshed, basically, we need to include these communities in larger discussions with policymakers so they can accelerate their action on climate mitigation and adaptation. What we try to do is that we want to bring them around one table because we think that they do not communicate. And this is what they also told us. We went to local NGOs, to campaigns, we listened to them, and then we brought local politicians sit around one table to discuss this issue. And I think you can also help out by being informed of what is happening in these neglected parts of the world, and by also spreading the word among your wider professional networks. I think if the international community put a pressure on local politicians, then they will take serious action. They are counting on you, so don't let them down. Thank you.